Hi, everybody.
No.
Welcome to Taco Tuesday, where we discuss fitness, food, and everything in between. Basically, we're looking to give you success in every sense of your being, body, mind, spirit, and heart. I'm Nick.
I'm Rebecca, and our goal with these talks is to give you guys some high value info, and we're also going to give you some action items that you can take. So make sure you stick around to the end for those.
Yes, I'm Brandon, and I hope you heard what Nick said. Every sense of your being. We're going to change your life. And if you're with us live on Facebook, like us and tell us that you're here. We like that. If you are not with us in Facebook, our Facebook group is called Drop the Fat, Not the Tacos, and we have a lot of fun there, so you should be there. Yeah, because it's a lot of fun, and you can interact with us and ask us questions and get good advice for free. Come and hang out with us. All right. So, what are we talking about today? So I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of reading and observing, and you guys know that I'm always ready to play devil's advocate as well. And mindfulness is one. It's important. Like, let's not, overshadow that. It's important to be mindful and be aware, and sometimes we need to raise our mindfulness and awareness around certain things, but it's kind of become this sort of buzzword, right? And there is definitely another side to it, right? We can do too much of anything. We were just talking about that before we got on this call. And I spoke to another coach, and she had such a great analogy, Julie. And she said, our brain can kind of be like a snow globe, and mindfulness can kind of work that way. Like, if we, kind of shake things up, and we're always trying to, to be aware, like it gets filled with noise. Right. And we can't see the big picture anymore. And sometimes we need to be able to step back and shut that off a little bit, I think, and regain some clarity. Because I really do believe there's such a thing as being over mindful, right? Overthinking. That's a, everyone can relate to that, I think.
Yep.
So,
and it's really hard. I can relate too with, this whole concept of being mindful. I know there's a lot of people out there, especially with what's been going on, that have anxiety. And when you have anxiety, your problem is you think about everything way too much, and you think about all the options and all the possibilities. That's a very, very thin line. And, you're constantly questioning, am I just being prepared, or am I overthinking it? Which leads to more anxiety. And it's a very, very thin line right there.
Such a cycle, right?
Yeah. Or am I doing enough? Right.
Yeah.
That can create some serious anxiety. I know I've felt that myself.
Yeah. Once it gets going, it can get out of control, right? It's that cycle. My anxiety gives me anxiety, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
It's just like if you become like so nearly obsessed with something that you can't stop doing these internet searches, right? Until you find the perfect answer that you want to find. Like, that's why you keep doing searches until you find the answer that you want to find. And that doing that, though, can be a trap, right? It takes away from real life and real insight that you might be able to find if you just started moving towards whatever it is that you're looking for. And by overthinking, by stressing about it, and by wondering, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? That is taking up your time. It's taking up your energy. It's taking up your willpower. Versus if you just go and do it, then you figure it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you bring up something really, really important there. A lot of it is, you're looking for the answer that you want to hear. And maybe that's a totally separate topic, but it's true. That answer that you want to hear, rather than accepting the reality of the situation sometimes, right? And we've talked about this in our talk about surrender, right? And acceptance, and working within our reality, right? Sometimes that's where a lot of overthinking comes from. I think, is not accepting what we need to do and searching and searching and searching for that perfect, unicorn of an answer that fits our, our narrative or our, what we've been telling ourselves, rather than admitting that we might need to change. So what's the difference? What's the difference between mindlessness and I'm sorry, mindfulness, mindlessness, and obsessing and overthinking? Right? We talk a lot about mindfulness in here, and when we coach people, right? And what we're talking about really is taking a moment, right, to be aware in situations where we might normally be on autopilot prior to action, right? That's really what we're talking about when we talk about mindfulness. It's finding those gaps where we're not practicing any thought, where we are practicing the other end. We are being mindless about something. How many of us are, in the habit of, like, grabbing a handful of candy out of the jar every time they walk past so-and-so's desk at work? Every time I walk out of the kitchen, I just grab a Hershey Kiss when I walk out of the kitchen. Right?
These are things that we've actually heard.
Yeah. Real scenarios, right? So it's really, the quick gathering of our thoughts also before jumping into things as well. But I think it crosses the line when it keeps us from jumping, when it keeps us from taking action. That's when we're overthinking, right? Paralysis by analysis. Right? So that's the important distinction, I think, is it helping us move? Is it motivating us, our thinking? Or is it frustrating us and keeping us out of action?
Right. Yeah. To me, mindfulness is essentially purposeful activity, right? That's taking the time to think about those actions, like you said. And, and we talk about it all the time. So I'll briefly go over it, but it's why it's important to you. And even maybe what your life will look like if you don't do those purposeful activities or actions.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a part of your brain that's specifically like red light, green light, do not or do.
Yeah.
And if allowed, it's a pathway, right? And if it's allowed to broaden that pathway, if it's a 2-lane road that's allowed to be into a 4-lane highway, it'll broaden the impulsivity of those decisions and actions, which means you will be more impulsive, which means you'll be more likely to make more decisions and take more actions based solely on emotion or, immediate satisfaction.
Yeah.
And, some might call that, mindlessness, right? So Brandon, you said mindlessness a minute ago, and that's almost mindlessness. You're not putting thought into it. You're just doing it. Like grabbing a candy bar while you're at the checkout line at the grocery store, or grabbing that Hershey's Kiss off the counter as you walk out the house or out of the office, then eating it as soon as possible. And then thinking like, oh, you know what? That wasn't so good for me. Even though, it's not going to help you in any way. And it might even have negative consequences. You do it anyway. That's impulsive. That's mindlessness. And the more you allow that to happen, the bigger your road becomes. Your 2-lane road now becomes a 4-lane highway to become more and more impulsive. In that same area of the brain, though, can be trained to say, yeah, you know what? I don't need that candy. I don't need that muffin. I don't need that cookie. And by doing that, by catching yourself in those instances, like one, it can be really rewarding to do so. And it initiates another level of reward in your brain, which again broadens the pathway for more mindful activities. Anyway, I'm going far too deep into this.
No,
I love it.
That's really fantastic, though, because you kind of bring up the other side of that. Impulsivity is something that
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We equate impulsivity, that word has bad connotations, but at the same time, there's some merit to that, right? You need to be able to make decisions without getting bogged down and obsessing on things. But
yeah, right. So that's the other piece of where I was going to is overthinking, right? Over analyzing. And Brandon, you've said it before in the past, analysis paralysis. To me, that means you're planning like every little specific detail. Like, have you ever traveled with somebody who plans every little detail, and the itinerary, there's no room left for any wiggle room. And if there is deviation to that plan, it causes a lot of stress and frustration between you and whoever it is you're traveling with. And maybe it's a whole group of people, and that's not a fun, from prior experience, that's not a fun thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that can be a dangerous trap to fall into as well. It's just overthinking. Am I doing enough? Do we have enough outline?
Yeah. And, I still do, but not so much. I used to struggle with this idea of balance between those two things, right? Mindfulness and overthinking, because I like to plan and I like to have everything planned out and I like to know what's going to happen. And if I start overthinking things or get obsessed with, everything going according to plan, I personally feel overwhelmed when it doesn't happen. And then there's this tension that builds up, the frustration, the negative energy. And, it's really hard to focus on anything at all if you're super worked up and stressed and your nervous system is in a mess. And I just wasted time because now I'm not doing anything at all because I'm so focused on how overwhelmed I am. And it's just because I overthought everything and tried to plan everything to a tiny little T. Not good.
Yeah.
It goes back to that old, I don't know, acronym. I think it's the KISS acronym, where it's keep it simple, stupid, right? Or keep it, what is it? I think that's pretty close.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. So just basically don't overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
Break it into steps, but allow for variation. Allow for some different, like maybe something to get a wrench to get thrown in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's one, you're allowing for some of that stress to be less, and two, you're allowing yourself different opportunities.
Yeah. To me, it is. It's more of a feeling. It's more of your headspace at the moment. It's allowing there to be room for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And for thoughts to get in here. And that's really kind of how this came up, like why I wanted to talk about this, because I was noticing that my best ideas, like I have certain times of day where I feel like my best ideas come to me. I'm thinking clearly. And I kind of figured out that those times are when I'm not like under the gun with anything, or I'm not trying to think about something. It's when I'm usually doing something. So a lot of the time it's like when I'm in the car and I'm just driving and like I have something to kind of, that I have to do and focus on, but not think about. Right. And so, it's like when you try to remember, like we all know that feeling, right? You try to remember something.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't, right? And then it comes to you while you're doing something later, not even thinking about it. That's the snow globe, right? And I can't get that clarity if I keep shaking it. Like, come on, like I gotta. Why can't I remember this, right? It's overthinking it. And the moment I step away, and that's such a hard thing to actually practice, right? Is stepping away from those moments when we're really trying to make something happen or remember something or, plan something, right? It comes to us if we can step away. One of my clients, she always says like putzing around and doing nothing in the morning. That's when all my best ideas happen. Right. And that's definitely true for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it allows your brain to kind of shift. And, I was talking about neurological pathways a minute. You're firing on different neurological pathways when you're doing something else, when you're putzing around.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, even if you just allow yourself to float back to the thoughts you were working on before, because you're firing on those new neurological pathways, boom, it fires through those new open pathways. You have a whole new level of creativity, and that whole new idea, thought, action, whatever it is, it might just be that solution that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, this is actually a good spot where a tiny little bit of planning can be very helpful. And Christoph Nauer, if you are listening, you'd be very, very proud of me. I'm a very good student. And something that he taught me is if you take a little bit of time each day to write down your most important tasks, like all the things that you need to get done today, you kind of have a guide to being mindless, right? You have a sense of what you need to get done. You have something to keep you on track, but you're just boom, 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 going down that to-do list. So at the end of the day, instead of being obsessed and, thinking about too much of what you didn't get done, you're focused on, oh, cool, I got all these things done and didn't have to put too much thought into it. It's kind of finding a nice, happy little balance between being, mindful and being mindless all at the same time.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that's true for me as well. Just kind of having, and Nick, you say this all the time, like, I just want the bullet points. Right.
Yeah.
And so that really works well for a lot of people. To me, it's a practice. Like I said, like a mindless activity really helps me out a lot. Like actually being in action, doing something. I used to say, like, my best thoughts about things happen when I'm thinking about something else, right? And doing something else. I can't sit and let my mind go very long. It just doesn't work for me. But when I'm doing something that doesn't require like major decisions, like cleaning the house or walking the dog or whatever, it kind of strikes that perfect balance where I can think about something that I might want to figure out, but my activity that I'm doing is going to kind of provide moments for pause that kind of break up my thoughts and interrupt that tendency, kind of like you were talking about a moment ago with the neurological pathways.
Yeah.
I have to, if I sit there and I mull it over and mull it over and mull it over and then, start reacting to my own space, right? That's when I get into trouble. So for me, it's really like I have to be doing something that really helps. And that's why, why I call it, mindless activity really is kind of the secret for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And actually by doing those things, like those things that we might consider putzing, right? Like cleaning the house or doing the dishes or things that need to be done, but they could definitely be done later. Sometimes by setting yourself up in that, by doing those things, it's almost like you're preparing yourself, and there's science behind this. You're preparing yourself, body and mind, to go do something bigger. But those things have to be off the plate first for you to have the openness, to have the, the allowability, I guess, to do it without distraction. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes, on the other hand, like sometimes you just need to take a second. Like we've talked about the 60-second reset on here. I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
Doing that same thing, and now they're finding research in like using visual points of interest, looking off into the distance, looking at your palm, shutting your eyes to do 60 seconds. A 60-second reset can help you move towards your goal at a more rapid rate, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, just shutting that brain off just to look and focusing on your inward self or focusing on that piece that's far away.
I like it. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I love the 60-second reset, is huge for me as well. That's a big, like, okay, let's, clear the checkerboard. Right?
Yeah. It's something I used to do every single day. Now I do it more and more sparingly as I get more and more used to just having a clear, like allowing the gunk to fly. And that's something you have to train yourself to do, right? Allow the gunk to fly out and bring it back later when you need it.
Yeah.
Okay. So something really similar to that. And remember earlier when I talked about like that overwhelm feeling, it's like this big tense ball of energy, and it just kind of takes over. And the one thing that always works for me to get me out of that state and to get to a point where I can have clear thinking to let things go, and I need everybody to do this with me, is you just stop and take the biggest, deepest breath you possibly can, and then let it out really slowly. And it's kind of like taking that 60-minute reset, but it's forcing yourself because you can't do anything else. You're focusing on breathing. And so when you do that, you feel calmer. You feel like you can sort through things in your head a little bit better. And then you can stop all the whirlwind, all the static, and go, okay, what's plan B, or what am I doing now? And that is a great way to just force yourself to stop and take a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. More science. Did you know, like, when you do a rapid inhale and that real slow, let it out, you're actually telling your heart to tell your mind, we need to take a second. Because when you do that rapid inhale and then slow exhale, you're slowing your heartbeat down. You're allowing, which sends a signal to your brain to say, hold on a minute. Let's find some calm.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing what we can kind of do to using our body to quiet our mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tremendous.
Mindless activity sometimes is great. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally taking a second to turn the brain off.
Right. And sometimes, I mean, this is why exercise is so important to me. Right. It's I'm not out here like bodybuilding. I'm not necessarily trying to change the way that my body is. It's very much for my brain. It's very much to help me have clarity. Right. And sometimes it might seem paradoxical to people that you would do something that is, or may seem strenuous to your body, that would create calm. But it does. It's how it works. Right. And so, I know during our coaching, a lot of the time, Nick, that's what we talk about with people. It's the overthinkers, especially. You really need to learn to value movement that way, not just for your body. It
is a game changer.
Yeah. So much for your mind. I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling at peace. The first thing I do is go move. And the reason it's the first thing I do is because it is the most effective thing in bringing my head back down to earth and letting the snow globe mellow out.
And it doesn't have to be a super long time either. Like, if we're talking about this, it doesn't have to be a super long time. Sometimes I am stressed out. If I go to the gym when I'm stressed out, sometimes I can't stop thinking about what I'm stressed out about. I'm doing the wrong thing. So you know what? I go outside, I go for just a short walk, and I'm usually a lot better. Come back and get the workout in. And then when I come back to what I was stressed out about, I'm a lot more clear-minded.
Yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes just taking a nice little walk is good for that too. Just get some fresh air and just take a walk and move 5 minutes. That's all you need.
Yep. 100%.
And that's
a little sunshine, a little fresh air. I think sneaking into this is a good segue to what we're talking about next week. Hey,
is it?
I think we're going to talk about some more physical action. We've been talking about mindset here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I want to get back into that a little bit, and that's
physical things you can do to feel better, lose weight, move forward in your goals.
Right. Because a lot of the time, those are the things that we're obsessing over. I mean, let's be honest. I think we are all about things like, body acceptance and not, we've had people throw their scales out. But at the same time, some of those things are on our minds, and they keep us very, very distracted, and they provide a lot of discomfort for us, right? They do shake the snow globe all the time. It's always there.
That's true. That is very true.
And so knowing that you're making progress toward those things can do a lot to ease your mind, right? But returning to, I just wanted to backpedal just a little bit and sort of challenge everyone, because like you said, like, you go to the gym and sometimes that's not the right place. And I would love to sort of give everyone here listening the homework of, take some time to identify your place, or at
Yeah.
least think of your place this week, right? And, obviously go there, but make the time to go there. But first, identify, where do you go, or what do you do that gives you that moment to be, unencumbered by all the other stuff, all the thoughts,
all the things,
abilities, all the things. Right. Find that spot. We all need it.
Yes, agreed.
All right. So back into the physical world next week. I will not be here next week.
Oh, nice. Very good. I forgot about that. That's great.
So I don't know how you guys want to handle that.
We'll figure it out. We'll be fine. We're
here. Smart people. We can figure this out.
Of course. I know it. Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. We love our community. And so, if you raise your hand in here, if you ask a question in here, we are going to answer it and we're going to reach out. So expect that. And again, if you're not in our Facebook group, Drop the Fat, Not the Tacos, come by and say hi.
You
please.
should be.
Yeah. We have a good time, and we love our people there. So come say hi, drop some inspiration, or come there to get some inspiration. Come get lifted up. Come to lift somebody else up. That's what it's all about. And there, you guys who are in the group, I think you guys know how much we love you. And so keep doing what you're doing in there. And we will see you guys not next week.
Wow.
I know.
What an ending
See
right
you
there.
soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.